Is it on your nightstand? Do you keep the statue like by your bed?
It's actually in my temple. I
It's in
feel
your
like
temple.
manifested this for a very long time.
For me, I think it's the beginning of something special. So looking forward to everything that's to come.
I have the little $5 Oscars in my shrine, and I'm always looking at them saying, okay, when is the real one coming? You know, it's actually surreal. 2018, there was a book and there was a chapter on me, and the last line was like, I know I'm going to win the Oscar and it's coming. In 2019, period end of sentence happened. And when period end of sentence happened, I was like, okay, I know there's a statue with my name on it coming. Just know it.
Tell us what we can learn from your hustle.
So we were taught 10 people will say no to you, one person will say yes. And that is something, you know, the more no's that happen, the sooner they happen, the yes is coming.
Well, this is a pleasure to sit down with Oscar winners Guneet Monga and Kartiki Gonsalves, clutching their Oscars straight off from LA, the producer and the director of Elephant Whisperers. Congratulations to both of you. What a massive, massive win. Guneet, you've been in India longer than her, so has it sunk in?
It's really not sunk in, and you know, the joy is double, tripled because I see the joy in the eyes of Indians, you know, of my friends, family. And I think that means more than anything else. Been in LA for a long time doing the campaign, then finally the win, the adrenaline high, the crash, the travel back, and then just all over again, this is home. The best was meeting Baman and Belly and seeing their smiles, you know, just the joy is spreading now. So I think like it's definitely not sunk in. And every day is a beautiful day, and I'm like, yeah.
So you wake up in the morning and you're like, I'm an Oscar winner. Is it on your nightstand? Do you keep the statue like by your bed?
It's actually in my temple. I
It's in
feel
your
like
temple.
manifested this for a very long time. And वहाँ पर पहले वो $5 वाले थे, so they have been replaced by the real one. So it's all going to always be in my home shrine.
I'm going to come back to that because I think that that's really important to talk about. But for you, your first film won an Oscar. What are you going to do in your second film?
It's a good question. I've been thinking about it.
Yeah.
But no, I think it's also just about going out and trying to make more films. So for me, I think it's the beginning of something special. So looking forward to everything that's to come.
Yeah. And for you, when you started, and I know you started off as a photographer, and you came across this story, and you've spent a fair amount of time now on this story. Did you imagine, like, what did you, when you first met, you know, Boman and Raghu on the side of the street, from what I understand, did you think that, okay, this is a story I want to tell the world? How did that happen?
It transpired over a certain amount of time. I spent so much time with them before I actually wanted to make a movie on them. And I think it was just something that I'd never experienced before, because growing up in the space, I'd spent a whole lot of time with larger elephants and been in and out of the forest on foot, seen wild tigers, wild elephants, and leopards and bears. So I think what really struck me with this is that they share this really special bond between each other. And I wanted to explore that because I'd never seen such a vulnerable calf with a human being before. And I'd only seen elephants that were maybe 30 or so. So, and then I realized that this was what coexistence was, and figuring out what was going on with the Asian elephants being endangered in a country like India, which it's so symbolic in so many ways, that it made me want to explore why such a beautiful species was going endangered in a country like India. And that's how the entire thing unraveled. And I realized that it wasn't just a local message, but a more global message. And in fact, one of the first things when I decided I actually wanted to make this into a documentary was the fact that I wanted the entire world to see it. So,
And you know, and I think that's wonderful, because I was having a chat with you know, the young sort of filmmakers in the room. Everybody is a filmmaker, especially if you're in Bombay, and everybody has this ambition, right? But you feel that I might have a story I want to tell, but how do I get Guneet Monga to hear my pitch? How do I get Netflix to hear my pitch? How do I get funded? How do I tell that story? So how did you go from saying this is a beautiful story the world should hear to actually making it happen?
I didn't think about it too much, and I didn't have any prior experience, so I hadn't really spoken to anyone about it either. So I basically cold called and sent an email with the promo, and Alok JV, it went in the hands of Alok, and he was in the APAC Netflix office, and he wrote back the next day and he said, we love it, we want to get on a call. So it was just instant almost. And then it took a while for it to transpire. And then Guneet came on board, which is beautiful because I wanted somebody who was Indian and she was a woman and she had all this work and the power that came with her. So it was just beautiful to see that come in play as well. So it was just a beautiful match, I think.
I want to ask you, I mean, your career is about finding really interesting stories and making them not just great films, but viable films, popular films, films that have been milestones in our film industry. I was just talking to somebody, a young person, who credited you with changing the course of our film industry in terms of storytelling, with Lunchbox, with Masaan, with Gangs of Wasaipur. For someone like you to pick a first-time director and say, hey, you know what, I'm going to put 3.5 years of my life into this and we'll make something special. How did you make that decision?
You know, actually, I think 85% of my work is first-time directors.
Okay, first-time directors, you heard her.
Yeah, it's, I would say I've hardly worked with seasoned and major directors. I've just always been, you know, with the ear on the ground. I love working with first and second time directors. I think the newness of it, the purity of it, the innocence of it is always there. And I think I have that also in me. Like, you know, I've understood the business, but I don't really look at playing by the rules. I feel like, how do I take that and make it my own? I always think a story never fails, the budget fails. This is something Yash Chopra said, this is something Anurag Kashyap said, and these words have always stayed with me. So making things viable is very important to me because I'm a producer, definitely, and I'm in between the absolute dreamer and the money, you know. So making that bridge has been always a journey, and I love, and I feel like it's a craft, you know, and I'm glad producers are being spoken about, recognized, you know, because it's as much of a craft. The how is it positioned, why, who are the partners in it, you know, how will it go forward? So from Lunchbox days, you know, it's been a very important part of my thinking. Anytime I get onto a project, I do think to myself, how will I add value? You know, because I'm a non-financing producer. I don't come with money. I always raise money. 30 plus films now, constantly raising money. The right kind of partners, the right kind of conversations that will take the story far and put it on the map. I have actually never done anything for the sake of doing it. I've actually never had anything which is just easy, ready to go, you know, packaged.
Yeah.
It's always been like how, and there a certain thought goes into it, and I love it. And that's where I feel my work happens. And it is so inbuilt that it is, you know, it's not something that I can explain. It's just part of me, and we are in part of long format. So it happens over 3 years, it happens over 5 years. With every project, the impact of Sikhya's work and my team's work and my work is seen over the years on a certain story. So it's on everyday basis.
You know, you just talked about the fact that she was a woman and that meant something to you. And in your Oscar speech, you said there were 2 women who have brought Oscars to India. This is the first Indian production to have won, and it's 2 women. I want to understand from you why that matters so much.
You know, thank you for asking that, because I feel like before fully getting onto Sikhya, I was running another company, and somewhere around post that, I was still figuring what to do. Post Lunchbox, I was figuring what to do. For a few years, I was in a bit of a blur, and I've spoken a lot about my highs and lows. And in that time, somewhere the Me Too movement happened. And that informed me that there are less than 5% women who are actually directors, who are actually behind the camera doing this. Yeah. And I had this conversation with my own self. How can I add value? What can I do? It matters to me. It matters to me very deeply. It's something that is informed on every piece of work that I do. That lens I enter with, I have to have those conversations on how are we representing women on screen, behind the screen. It's part of my life's mission, you know, to be able to expand that database. and to be able to have more opportunities, to be able to create more opportunities with my 15 years of experience now, to be able to, and I know you feel the same way. So it's just so inbuilt into me, the reason of even putting together Indian Women Rising, the reason of having those conversations in every room. You know, almost like it matters to me so much. It's so inherent. So I was overjoyed to be reached out by Kartiki and by Netflix. You know, it almost adds up to my life's mission. And I was like, hell yeah, I want to be part of this. So I'm forever grateful, you know, to be part of this journey, to be able to add my bit of nurturing, of protecting, of making sure Kartiki has the best experience and the exposure here. But it just is something which is really important to me. And I think post that, a lens in me shifted. And feminism is something that we learn every day, because we are so inbuilt with patriarchy that it is a new information that I learn how to position, how to talk, how to understand, how to be more empathetic, to be able to understand what the challenges are and how as a producer I can help break those free. So yeah, here I am, and I think post Me Too, I think most of Sikya's work is either female led or is female stories, or even if it is a big Surerari Potru, like a big Tamil film, it's really important how the women are represented,
how they're portrayed, and
how they are portrayed. So it's it is something that you will see across the work. It's there, that lens is there, that conversation is there, and it's really important to me.
As a photographer and a storyteller and a filmmaker, did it make a difference that you were a woman in terms of the challenge when you started off, getting people to take you seriously, getting forest officers to take you seriously? Because, you know, there's all of these things that people don't see. Once when you watch this gorgeous film, you don't know how many officers you had to take permissions from and stuff like that. So at what point, you know, when it's, oh, she's a woman, okay, she'll get this. Tell me that story.
In fact, it was quite the opposite in the beginning.
Okay.
Because I think wildlife in general is a male-dominated profession and has been in India throughout. Only now there's a whole new space for women, and we have many right now, but it wasn't the case 5-7 years ago.
Yeah.
So it's interesting because when I first started this out, I remember a few of the officers like, wait, you want to go in the forest and make a movie? Like, no.
Yeah.
So it actually took me at least 2 years to get the permits. And there's a lot of back and forth. In fact, I moved to Bombay in that time, and then I shifted out of here when I got the permits. So I actually moved on with my life because I thought I was not going to get the permits. And then I think the overall thing is, I think being a woman has different things. I did work on an earlier project on the Indo-Pakistan border where I think being a woman really helped, because I was talking to Muslim women up there, and it took me a while to get accepted by them, but they opened their lives up to me about 2 weeks later. And I think there's some advantages to that, because they feel comfortable with you, they're able to open up, and you have advantages in places that men might not have in many places. So I think being a journalist and being able to get into spaces that haven't been looked into before gives you a lot of advantage. So it's been quite a journey, but I think things are improving as we go along, and I hope in the next 10 to 15 years that we're in a space where women really have a lot more opportunities in all fields, not just in photography and filmmaking, but also in other jobs. And
Guneet, I brought up your Oscar speech, which you didn't have the opportunity to make on stage, and you know, all our hearts broke at that time. We woke up at 5 a.m. for this. And there's now some commentary on the internet that the film that picked up their trophies immediately after, which was animated short, allowed both men on stage to make their acceptance speeches, whereas in your case, you were only allowed one. And there was this commentary about the fact that, was it because you were an Indian woman and they were two white men? I want to understand how you feel about this.
You know, it came to me as a shock for sure.
Yes.
I was on the stage getting ready with my speech. We just scribbled some lines before, and I just wanted to say that this is India's first film and here is to women, and thank a bunch of people. I'm glad Kartiki did get, and I'm so proud of her, because it's such high pressure, and it's a moment we're all told that it's only 45 seconds, and we were trying to hug each other, and I was just like, go on the stage now. There's no time.
Oh, including the time to walk up.
Yeah.
Yes.
The 45 seconds,
Yeah.
including that.
Yeah.
That's why you see me holding on to her hand,
And
because
I'm
I couldn't
like-
get her out in time to hug her, because we had our executive producer Douglas Blush in between her and me, and there was Archon behind, and I knew we'd spend all our 45 seconds hugging each other and thinking about whether we actually won or not before getting up on stage. So we just decided to do it.
So
Make
she
a run
reached out
for
to
it.
hug, and I was like, go.
Go.
on the
She was
stage,
like, go. So
run
you
up,
can,
you know.
see a brief video of me holding on her hands, and then
And
I
I'm
was
just like, go, run, start, So I was like, you get started, and then, we'll reach. So that moment happened. It was a flash. And then I was just getting ready to say something, and the music started, and I was firstly like, oh, am I supposed to leave? Like, what am I supposed to do? And then I ended up screaming at the entire orchestra level, with all the amazing filmmakers sitting on the ground floor facing me. I was like, this is India's first Oscar for an Indian film. Thank you. And the ground floor started cheering. I had my moment, and it did not unfortunately get telecast.
Telecast, yeah.
But I was very much saying my bit.
Yes.
And then we walked away, and my heart started racing, because I was like, coming so far, manifested this for so long. In a split second, I was also like, because I feel so spiritual about everything and so grateful to everything, so grateful for the win, for all of us, to be able to represent our beautiful, diverse country at the biggest stage in our industry, So my heart was racing, and then there was a backstage camera, which I didn't know about. And they were just like, come here, quickly say whatever you need to say. I was like, okay, I need to say this. I forgot a bunch of people. I forgot Monica Shergill, Netflix India, my husband, Sunny Kapoor. It was like 3 months anniversary. There is so much joy, and there is so much anxiety. At the same time, it's human. So yes, it was a mixed bag. The feeling was mixed bag. I didn't know that there was another category after us, and then there were 2 men representing it, and they spoke. I also found that out online, because we were doing the winners walk back end. There is a whole walk back end, and they took you into many spaces and a press conference, and it was all exploring for us. Now get into this room, this photo shoot, that digital photo shoot, this digital mirror sign, and then the poster sign, and then the press conference. It's gorgeous, it's beautiful. So I didn't realize what was going on. It's almost like another 45 minutes, and we're only trying to get united with our families who are outside. We all want to hug and hold the statue. So with all of that, I feel disappointed, but I know that we're going back there for my speech. So it's been a journey. I think in 2010, I was walking the red carpet for a short fiction film called Kavi, and I sat on the 5th floor. And all I said that, ek baar to wahan se niche baithna hai, just to be able to sit down and be able to. Then period end of sentence happened. Beyond My Dreams, I was an executive producer. Sikha produced it on the film. Again, I was sitting on the 5th floor. But I was like, once I need to sit, but holy shit, we won. That moment was like, one of my films has won an Oscar. Also first-time director, also an amazing, incredible story of India. So very proud, and came back home to a lot of celebration. And here was time, we were sitting on the ground floor. I was so happy 2010 to 13 years later, I was sitting on the ground floor. It was beyond our dreams to win. Just so grateful that our film, the story of Baman Belly, Raghu, Amu, Kartiki's debut film, the journey we've had. I'm a Hindi language filmmaker for a Tamil film. Just the whole spectrum of it blows my mind. I'm so grateful. So zooming out, bigger picture, I think we still have a long way to go. We just got started, and we're going back for our speech.
So you promised yourself another Oscar so you can make the speech.
Yes,
And that's all part of your manifesting.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, and I know that people want to know this. You do have a massive spiritual journey alongside all of this. It's really important to you. I know this personally. But when you say, I manifested this Oscar for so long, what does that mean?
It's really, I've definitely said my speech many times. In my dream, waking up, sleeping, I have definitely said my thank yous to my beautiful country and my parents up there and my guru up there. I feel very connected to them, and I feel like they're our guiding angels and opening doors that, are beyond me, are, making sure the doors welcome me as we enter. So little things like that. I have the little $5 Oscars in my shrine, and I'm always looking at them saying, okay, when is the real one coming? And I'm always looking to my guru and saying, okay, now just get the real one. This is fading. It's actually surreal. 2018, there was a book and there was a chapter on me, and the last line was like, I know I'm going to win the Oscar and it's coming. And 2019, period end of sentence happened. And when period end of sentence happened, I was like, okay, I know there is a statue with my name on it coming. Just know it. Now, how do you know it? It's just, I think, gratefulness. Stories choose us. I don't think we give ourselves too much credit. There's a very beautiful line in Hindi, which is like, मेहनत हम सब करते हैं, but जब रहमत होती है, तब तो हमारी मेहनत पे चार चांद लग जाते हैं ना. That is beyond explanation. We can all sit here and dissect what, where, how the odds joined up. The beautiful day when Kartiki and Alok Devi Chand reached out to me. All of that adds up, but we all work hard. But there is definitely grace. There is definitely somebody up there who's saying, okay, this is a blessing that you have. Yeah.
Do you feel that as well?
It's an interesting question. I hadn't even thought about the Oscars, honestly. It was my first documentary, and I wanted to start this. In fact, way before this even became a thing, it was just going to be me shooting a 15-minute piece on my own to see if I could put a story together. So I think that's where it all began. I think it really hit me when we got shortlisted that we were applying in this run together. So I never really thought about it, honestly. So completely the other spectrum.
So for you, your aim, from what you told me, was environmental, was conservative,
exactly.
was forest-based, was wildlife-based, was based out of love and protection.
Yes.
Are you hoping that this win, now that everybody's talking about the elephants of the Nilgiris, are you hoping that this is going to make a difference? What difference are you hoping for?
Initially, I just wanted it to be, I wanted people to understand elephants on a deeper level, because we have a lot of human-animal conflict across India, not just in the south, but also up in the center of India and up in the north. So I think I wanted it to translate across India to help protect the species that was sort of in the endangered list. And I really strongly feel from my experience that you start protecting things when you learn about them and understand them. That's when you really want to protect something. Because if you don't care, then you don't protect. Yeah. So that was initially where it began. And I think because of being a natural history photographer, I was always trying to put stories out in the world with a hope for change. So I think that gradually transformed into this documentary, because not only did we have this small little story looking at elephants, but I think I later on gradually saw that it had a larger message that was for everyone across the world, be it other species, people living and coexisting with other species across the planet. I realized it wasn't just a tiny message from an indigenous community down in the south of India, in the heart of Mudumalai, but it also transcended into somebody sharing space with beavers up in, say, like Italy or something. So I think that's when I really saw the power of storytelling, and I think that's how I realized that, I think this is the way forward for me, because I was in photography, and the one thing I was always striving to do with it was to reach out to people. And I didn't see that happening with the way photography is placed in our country right now.
Yes.
I didn't see it as a viable way forward. And that's when I started exploring camera work, and I became a cinematographer, and that was very brief, and that's when this came through. So it was literally, it was instant. It was like, do you want to direct? I was like, I never directed before. Let's give it a shot. So it was just something, and I think it just translated from the imagery part into, it was the same thing that I was doing in photography, but this was with the moving camera. So it was basically
was there a moment of, oh my God, I don't know what I'm doing?
Definitely. The first day when I actually got the cinematographer I wanted, Krish Makija, he flew down. I went through a whole lot of profiles and singled down on somebody who was really good at capturing emotions, because I realized that was the core of the movie. I had the background of being with natural history, so I knew the animal behavior part. And usually people who do animals can't do people, and people do things, and then people who do people don't do wildlife. So since I had the background in natural history, I was looking for somebody who could basically capture emotion, because that was the core of what I wanted to capture in the sacred bond that I was trying to portray. And once he came down, it was just really beautiful because we just set out and started documenting everything. But it's been a process. I mean, the whole thing has been a process.
For your parents, and you said your parents used to take you into the forest when you were
Yes.
less than 2 years old, so that you have that as your basis. What has this meant for them, for your story to have been told across the world, and for you to bring back this guy?
My mother's actually the story writer on the documentary, so she's been a part of this process from the very beginning. In fact, she's been there, and both my parents have been a very strong support system throughout this process. So they're extremely happy because my father actually grew up in the Nilgiris, so this is a place that he calls home. And I think the movie also has bits of both my parents. We lived in the Nilgiris pretty much growing up the entire time, and it's home to my father. And my mother, she has this in-depth love for animals, and my father is a photographer, so I have bits of both of them, and I think that's what's really special about it. And they were with me in LA, which is really special. So they came to the Oscars. And that's what I meant in the speech by the up there. Because I realized there was a clarification. I said somewhere up there, but then I realized there was some articles that came out that they were like, oh, are they no longer alive? And I was like, no, I meant that
that they're literally sitting up there.
They were sitting up there. So yeah, I found that interesting. I didn't think about that when I was there. But yeah.
Guneet, I want to talk to you about the hustle. We've talked about this in the past, right? For you in your 20s to want to be a film producer, you came to Mumbai and dyed your hair grey to be taken more seriously. And
Now I dye them black.
You've dyed back. And you've hustled your way through.
Yeah.
In your funding, to be taken seriously, to get your next film, just to break into, I mean, enough has been said about you have to be from a film family and things like that, but
Yeah.
tell us what we can learn from your hustle.
You know, it's very interesting. So, when I was 18, my dad put me into a Tata AIG insurance thing ki tum insurance agent ban jao. So he was just like, I will get people to my friend circle will sign up for you, and you will get interest and you will get some money every time, you know, on the renewal of a policy. So I went and gave exams, I went and studied, and I became an insurance agent at Tata AIG. Besides being a DJ, anchor, selling cheese on streets, all of that. And what I learned in that Tata AIG course was like, you're going to go tell other people, also middle class people, you know, the world that you inhabit, that, you know, you're going to die. Why don't you give us money? You know, and then your family will be well off after that.
After you're dead,
So this is the pitch line, you know, very nicely put together. And it's very difficult because when people are working, you know, they're really living end to end, you know, with their salaries, with their expenses. It's a very difficult thing. So we were taught 10 people will say no to you, 1 person will say yes. And that is something, you know, the more no's that happen, the sooner they happen, the yes is coming. It has stayed so deeply with me that it has helped me. I actually celebrate the no's. My brain is wired to celebrate the no's. Even in personal life, all the dating rejections, I'm like, jaldi se mana kar do. Ya to shaadi kar lo ya mana kar do. You know, so it's more like then I'm getting to my yes closer, you know, because I have to get through 10 people because the 11th will say yes. So it's about standing up. It's about getting back there and celebrating the no's, celebrating the rejections. There's no time for it. Let's get to the yes. It's coming. We just have to keep doing it. You know, you can't expect this to turn into a yes. If it does, great. You know, moving on to the next. We live life of freelancers. Every project, you know, one has to raise that money, one has to make it happen, and then afford the office, the teams. I'm so grateful that the whole system is being able to run and operate, and I have a brilliant team behind me that allows me to do all of this. But sometimes I do pinch myself in the morning, like, holy shit, you know, I have this beautiful team and I made it happen.
And now that you're Oscar-winning Guneet Monga, are people going to say no to you?
I've just gotten back. I hope not. I hope not. That 10 ratio gets soon.
No, I've always wanted to ask you this because you've talked about this in the past. You've said if there is a table with 10 people, you will pull up a chair and you will sit down. And you've gone to Martin Scorsese's house and rung the doorbell uninvited and said, I will meet him today. You've done this. You've written unsolicited letters, knocked on the doors and been sort of unembarrassed of the reaction. Who are you? What do you want? Like, why are you here?
I'm the pride of India and I want an air ticket to America. For my first trip, the Oscars in 2010, and now being able to afford it and being able to come back it's brilliant. It's beautiful. Very grateful.
So there are a lot of people, me included, I'll be honest. I mean, I don't walk up to people. I'm a little like, okay, you know, I don't know what they'll think. Why is she being so pushy? What are you thinking at that time when you ring Martin Scorsese's doorbell? Tell us that story. What were you thinking?
I mean, I had somebody call him that I would come, but it was also really like I didn't know that they'd made the call or not. Then I'd gotten the address. But you know, I do feel like there is a power in asking. You know, if you don't ask, then you just keep guessing. You know, it's about asking someone, do you think you can make this call for me? You know, do you think you can put in a word? Would you be comfortable in introducing me? Also very sweetly, humbly asking, not in an entitled position. In a position, it would mean a lot to me if there is a possibility of doing this, you know. And more than one, people are very generous. The world is very beautiful. I've stayed in people's houses. I mean, to be a producer, it's you know, the whole country feels like you have to come from money. You know, my parents and I used to stay in a 5,000 rented house, 5,000 rupees rented house. They didn't have life insurances. We really come from a beautiful family, but don't come from money. So to be able to build a life, to be able to build a team, to be able to make all these films, it is really power of asking. You know, just ask freely. You know, we judge ourselves. Yeah. We will not get it. We are not worth it. Why? You know, who's deciding you're not worth it? So I'm always like, why is this not happening for us? You know, so of course, let's just ask and give the right to say no to somebody else. At least we did our effort. And throughout, even in this campaign, I was just every day thinking, I have to show up and do my effort. I have to write my emails. I have to do my outreach. It's okay if people will not tweet, not talk, not watch. You know, it's up on their email. I'll send a reminder. It's fine. That's what I did. I went there and I just sat there and I did that. And that's all I can do. Everything else is out of my control. You know, whatever is in my control, I have to do that. Show up for myself, my project, my director, in 100% way, do my bit, and then leave the results to the universe and to the person on the other side. Maybe it'll be a yes, maybe it'll be a no, moving on. You know, and then I'm deeply grateful for somebody who does support. I've had a lot of grace around the world. Like, I feel like people have supported a lot. You know, people have championed us a lot. And that's, you know, their generosity. But it's also because I reached out.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I think you talked about how you worked as a sales girl at one point, and you said all of these various things that I have done sort of contributed to where I am today. Tell us a little bit about that journey, how you feel that, and what someone young watching right now, and you're currently, you know, all hopeful directors have their eyes on you. They want to know how can they do what you did.
I think it goes back to ever since I was born, I think, because the first time we went hiking in the forest. I camped out in the wilderness when I was 18 months old. And my family would go out to aquariums and museums and into the wilderness instead of going to shopping malls and in different places. So I think it all began right there. And then I think that sort of started it for me because I was immersed in nature from a very young age. And then growing up in the Nilgiris, being out in the wilderness sort of created this love for the environment. In fact, during my teenage years, for sure, I did not enjoy it because I always thought it was greener to be in the city. I mean, I thought it was much nicer to be in the city. That's where the fun was. And horseback riding and going through the streams in the Nilgiris was not really my cup of tea back then. Yeah. But then I sort of got into photography. I went on this small trip which really started my love for photography, and so then I sort of figured out that I liked animals and I liked photography. So it was something that I always took along. I took a camera with me everywhere I went, and my parents really encouraged me in the arts because my father's a computer science engineer, my mother's a historian. So they realized that I was passionate about the arts, so they pushed me in that, and I'm very thankful for that because I wouldn't be here if not. I grew up on an IIT campus, so we know what the pressure is like. People were going for their JEE classes in 7th standard, and I was going for pottery classes instead. So it sort of just started out from a very young age, and I think that sort of transformed. I wanted to be a National Geographic photographer, and then as we went along, that changed. And I did a Bachelor's of Science in Visual Communications, which sort of took me through the basics of everything. We had media ethics, we had writing, we had photography and computer science and a bunch of other things. And then I went there with the idea that I wanted to pursue photography. So after that, I went to the Light and Life Academy in the Nilgiris, and I specialized in nature, wildlife, culture, and travel. And that was my main goal. I didn't want to do an undergrad. But then they said I had to go do an undergrad to come back and do the photography. So I did that and just got through the 3 years of college very quickly and immediately went back and said, okay, I have an undergrad now let's do the photography. So I finished that, and immediately after that, I realized that, wait, I have to go get a job now. And then I entered the real world of realizing that photography was not an easy profession. And that's when I started out in a rural technology business incubator in IIT in Madras, where I started working with the back-end fibers, banana fibers, and that got me interested in working with Fab India, helping out with the back-end work, because it was cultural, it was photography, it was a mixture of different things. And then, so that happened, and I started doing sales, which I think really helped in just going out and reaching to Netflix. That's where that connection happened. Then I worked in a gym for a bit. So I was doing more of the outdoor sports and stuff like that. And then, so that worked on that bit. I think every bit is, then I got into advertising. I was in advertising for 6.5 years. So I was working on some fashion brands and things like that, but I also was doing a lot of creative direction there. So I think I got the direction parts from that as well. But all along I was doing photography and wildlife photography. So that was, and I think all of that sort of came together. And I decided advertising was not my thing, jumped back and took the plunge, jumped from a very high paying salary to nothing, because I thought to myself, if I'm 60, what's the one thing I'm going to regret doing in my life? It was wildlife photography. So that's why I made the jump back. And here I am. It's been exactly 5.5 years since I quit advertising, and yeah. And I couldn't be happier.
Because in India, documentary filmmaking is not, it's not considered lucrative. Like how will you make a living? How will you pay the rent if you're a documentary filmmaker? Like, how does that work? It's not, I mean, when you tell your parents that, listen, I'm going to be working advertising, or, I'm going to do this, I'm going to have this kind of job, it makes sense to them. But documentary filmmaking is challenging for, for young people today who decide that that's what they want to do. What is your advice for them?
I would say go after something you're really passionate about, and also cultivate that while you have another job. I wouldn't say quit your job to jump into something you're really passionate about. I would say cultivate it on the side, and once you're at a place where you think you can really push it, then switch. Because a lot of people would jump out and then be like, wait, I can't do this. And then you've lost the previous job, and then you're stuck, and that's hard. So I was doing photography all along, and I was just jumping into something I'd been doing for a very long time. And there was a space where you do have to just be okay with not making money. But then it does pick up slowly, and it takes time, and you have to believe in yourself. But I would definitely tell young people out there to choose something you're absolutely passionate about. When I started this journey for the Elephant Whisperers, I didn't realize it was going to be 6 years of my life. And I don't think I ever woke up one day and said, this is work. Yeah. And I could literally go back right now and start documenting their life all over again. I could do it for the next 40 years, 50 years. It doesn't feel like work to me. And I think you really need to have that in you to do that. Because the moment you think it's work, it becomes an obligation. And you have work hours. Yeah. And that's when you're going to burn out in something that is never ending, especially with verite documentary that is never ending. In fact, one of the hardest things in the making of this documentary was really pulling the plug on the story.
Now we have enough.
Exactly. So the one side of me is like, I never want to end this, because I literally met Raghu when he was 3 months old, and now he's 6.5. So he's like a son to me in so many ways. It's like an elephant son. But at the same time, it was more like I wanted to get out of it before another calf came in, because this is an ongoing process. And in fact, I do have to mention this, but just while we were in the edit process, they got another calf, but they didn't take it back to the camp, because the forest department basically tries to reunite the calf back into the wild, and only when everything fails do they bring it to the camp. So they had this young calf, and that was actually found in a river, and they tried to reunite it to one lactating mother that was there. And they left the calf there. They covered the calf in elephant dung to take away human sense, and that mother didn't accept the calf. So then what happened is they took the calf back, and Bowman was at the helm of this. He was looking after the calf, but then they used drones to figure out that there was another herd fairly close by. And that's when they covered the calf again in elephant dung and went and tried this, and it was accepted. So that was a beautiful success story that now when it happened, it's like, come on, like I could have put this in the movie.
Yeah.
But it was something that happened
yeah,
later. But it's just really beautiful that a calf got reunited.
And had you been there, you would have had it all on camera.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So here I was in Bombay, and I was cursing myself, and I was like, wait, we had two calves who came in, which was adorable, but at the same time painful to see how often calves were getting abandoned. But then here we had this beautiful success story. So, but it keeps going on, and now Bowman has another calf. They have a new calf, which is I think 3.5 months old, if I'm not correct. But and the cycle keeps going. So it's just it's
too adorable.
It's too adorable.
Yes.
It's too adorable. Guneet, what is your advice to young people who want to make films?
I would always just share Kartiki's story loud and clear to everyone, because here is this beautiful, amazing young woman who just picked up the camera and went behind a story. Did not wait for anybody's permission. Did not pitch it. Did not, wait for grant funding, anything. Took the camera, made a pitch trailer, put music behind it, shot, research, shot. It was gorgeous. That trailer is still out there in YouTube, her pitch trailer, which I feel everybody should see. And of course, we have our official film and Netflix and all of that, but that's where it started from, and that trailer was sent to us. I was like, holy shit, this is beautiful. For her cinematography is beautiful, her language is beautiful. And then meeting her was amazing. I was like, yes, I want to be part of it. So there's nothing that is stopping you. What is stopping you is you yourself. Just get out there and start. And here is an example. The first director in the country to win an Oscar is right here, who started on her own and did not abide by any rules, didn't assist, did not, has a clean slate. And it's possible. And if we here, sitting here, can say that it's possible, it really is, So magic does happen, but as Kartiki said, it has to be deep down, it has to be a passion, it has to be deep faith in your story, and it doesn't have to feel like work. And then somehow you make ends work. You figure it out. I don't even know how I have figured so many things out, but somehow it works out because it's passion.
Guneet and Kartiki, thank you so much for spending time with me today and sharing your story. Good luck to both of you, and I wish you many, many Oscars in the future.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thanks for having us.